So I want to take an example just to ground this in a real solution. So imagine that you are an OEM of an espresso machine. We call these solution providers at Mesh, and they're our direct customers most of the time. And imagine that solution's goal is to sell solutions to their target end customers who are operators of coffee shops with at least 10 espresso machines. Every IoT solution or connected product that I've been involved in has both internal and external users of the data where you're trying to get value on top of. So one internal use case that's very common, and Harold alluded to this, was machine companies wanting to offer a better support mechanism for maintenance, whether that's predictive or reducing the time to react to issues in the field. And this really is the seed for the as a service business model, machine as a service or espresso as a service. Getting this right is really valuable. And the people who usually look at that data work inside the organization. Now, you also have external users and use cases, and one for coffee shops would be, if you have multiple coffee shops, how do you ensure that your espresso quality is consistent across all of these? And really, any IoT solution that we're talking about, whether it's a coffee machine, an oven, a motor, pump, you're going to connect those devices, you're going to have some cloud infrastructure, and then that application layer on top of that, whether that's a web, mobile app, or some other form of an interface, is where that value is delivered. And that's what I'm talking about here. So if I was responsible, let's say for product at that espresso machine manufacturer, what I would do is I would start by laying out all the outcomes that we want to deliver and believe are possible with this connected solution, both internally and externally. So I'll take one of them and I'll go through an example of how I would do this. So let's go back to that example of, you want to maximize the consistency of espresso across all the coffee shops across your customer base. So where I would start is find the experts who you would trust, the best of the best, who could deliver that outcome if they had the right insights and tools available to them. So you might have inside your company a scientist who's expert on espresso, and they know what temperature it needs to be in the grounds and everything like that. And then since you manufacture the machines, you have expertise on the actual machine itself. And sometimes these experts will be inside your company, and sometimes it'll be with your customers. Talk to them. And what you can do when you talk to them, you can say, if your job was responsible for maximizing the consistency of espresso across a variety of machines, like you're responsible for that outcome, what insights and tools did you need to be able to accomplish that? And then you can get down into, like a common example would be, what are the configurations and settings on all the machines? Are they all on the same firmware? Is it the same hardware platform? If our customers are having that consistently across their devices, are they actually operating in the expected ranges that we would expect? So ask each one of those experts to provide all that information to you. And then finally, you can get to the point where you're looking at the data, or perhaps the curated data on top of the raw data here. So for example, in IoT, a lot of times we see these dashboards where customers will connect machines, and then our solution providers will connect their machines, and they'll build these dashboards that have all these time series charts and KPIs. And what they're really relying on is a user who is an expert of that system, who can then parse through all the data and make decisions on that. What I'm arguing is, if you talk to the experts at an early stage, you can actually take that raw data and put it into a format where insights can be generated not just by the highest experts of the system, but those sort of the average user. So an example of that would be, instead of showing temperature every minute across all of your machines during their cycle, what if instead you counted the brew cycles outside of an acceptable temperature range to know where to look, and then you could dive deeper into the data to generate more insight.